They say there was once a forest behind a quiet village called Umudu. Long ago, it was just sand, trees, and shadows. But everything changed after a woman named Amara ran into it. She was crying so much, her tears did something strange, something no one could explain. That day, something sad and powerful was born. Amara was not always sad. She used to smile and laugh. But as the years passed and she had no child, people in the village began to talk about her. Some called her names. Some laughed behind her back. They said she had no child because something was wrong with her. Every time she walked past, people whispered, and it hurt her deeply. In her small hut, Amara cried alone. She had prayed many times and even went without food, hoping for a miracle, but nothing happened. That day, something inside her broke. She could not take it anymore. As night came and the wind grew loud, Amara left her hut without shoes. She ran into the forest. The trees were dark and tall. The wind howled like a wild animal, and lightning flashed in the sky. But Amara did not stop. She ran until she reached a quiet place. There was no rain there, even though the sky was crying everywhere else. The ground was dry. She fell to her knees and cried loudly, begging the sky and the earth to give her a child, or to let her die there. Then something strange happened. The ground shook. A loud sound came from under her. The dry sand broke open, and water came rushing out. It didn't stop. It spread fast, filling the clearing and turning into a wide, dark lake. The sky flashed again, and everything went quiet. Amara stared at the new lake. Her face was wet with tears and rain. Her heart was full of pain. She made a promise right there. She said any woman who came to this lake while on her monthly time would suffer. And if a baby's cry was ever heard near the lake, something terrible would happen after. Then she fell down beside the lake and didn't move again. In the morning, the villagers saw the lake for the first time. They had never seen anything like it before. It looked deep, dark, and scary. Amara was gone. No one could find her. Only the lake was there. An old man, Elder Chukwu, warned everyone. He said this was not a gift. It was a warning. He drew a line in the sand and told the villagers to stay far away. A woman nearby heard a baby cry, but no baby was there. Everyone grew afraid. They called it the Lake of Silent Cries. The forest changed after that. The wind no longer felt the same. The lake stayed quiet, but many believed it was watching, waiting. From that day, no one dared go too close. And sometimes, at night, people say you can still hear a woman crying near the water. But when they look, no one is there. Just the lake, waiting. The lake stayed quiet. It didn't make a sound. Its water looked still, like a mirror. But under the surface, something strange was there, something watching, waiting. Time went by, but people in the village didn't forget. Parents told their children to stay away. They said the lake was not safe and that it came from sadness and pain. Most people listened, but not everyone believed. One day, a young woman named Ngozi walked through the forest. She was brave and didn't believe in old stories. She thought the lake was just like any other water. She smiled as she walked, not afraid of anything. She reached the lake and looked at it. The birds had stopped singing. The trees stood very still, but Ngozi didn't notice. She bent down, scooped some water in her hands, and drank. Suddenly, she felt very cold. A sharp pain hit her stomach. She held herself and gasped. The world around her changed. The forest seemed darker. The water moved like something inside it was waking up. She ran back home. Her mother was waiting for her outside. Ngozi looked sick and scared. Before she could say anything, she fainted. People rushed to help. Then they heard something strange. A baby's cry. But there was no baby there. Everyone stopped. Their faces turned pale. They remembered the stories. The curse was real. That night, the village elders gathered by a fire. Their faces were serious. They talked about the lake and how dangerous it was. One elder said the lake takes away happiness. Another said young people didn't fear it anymore and would keep making the same mistake. Far away, in a small hut, another woman was crying. Her name was Adaeze. She had no children, and it broke her heart. She hugged a small clay doll, pretending it was a baby. She felt very alone. That night, the moon was full. Adaeze walked into the forest. She didn't know why. It was like something was calling her. When she reached the lake, it glowed gently. She fell to her knees and cried. She didn't ask for riches or fame. She only asked for one thing, a child. The wind blew softly. A white flower floated to the top of the lake, then sank slowly. The lake had listened. Months later, Adaeze walked through the market with a round belly. She was going to have a baby. People stared in surprise. Some smiled. Others looked scared. Some believed the lake had blessed her. Others thought something worse would happen. The village became confused. Was the lake good or bad? A gift or a trap? No one knew for sure. But one thing was certain. The lake was watching and waiting. And that night, again, a baby's cry floated across the water. Then came silence. Early in the morning, when the sky was just turning blue, the lake sat quietly. Mist rose from the water, like smoke, thick and spooky. A bird chirped once, then stopped. The lake's surface moved gently, as if something underneath had stirred. They say the lake could give. They say it could take. But people often forget. Even when a place is full of warning, some still choose to ignore it. In the village, a young bride named Chiamaka was getting ready for her new life. She was happy, laughing with her friends as they walked through the forest to fetch water. The girls giggled and teased each other, daring each other to go close to the lake. They said the lake could bless her marriage if she drank from it. Chiamaka smiled and walked to the edge. She looked into the water and saw her face. She looked so happy. She whispered a wish for many children, then scooped some water in her hands and drank. At first, nothing happened. Then, the wind blew hard, cold, and sharp. The forest became quiet. Chiamaka held her chest, her smile fading fast, her eyes filled with fear. She fell to the ground, and her friends screamed and pulled her away from the water. The news spread through the village like wildfire. Everyone came to see what had happened. The elders looked worried. Some asked if Chiamaka had gone to the lake during her woman's time, but no one could answer for sure. Chiamaka lay in her hut, her face pale, not speaking, not moving much. Her mother cried beside her, holding her hand. The lake had heard her wish, but answered with sadness. That night, a big storm came. The wind screamed like people crying. Everyone in the village locked their doors, afraid. But one man, Obinna, was not afraid. He was strong and brave. He tied a charm around his neck and walked into the forest alone. He reached the lake, holding a torch that flickered in the wind. He shouted into the night, calling to the spirit of the lake. The water shook. The flame almost went out. Then something rose from the lake, a pale face, with empty eyes and an open mouth. A woman's face, Amara. Obinna fell back in fear. The face disappeared again, and the lake was still. He ran back to the village as fast as he could. When he got there, He told the elders what he saw. The villagers became afraid again. The curse was still alive, and it was growing. The villagers began to whisper. They held their children close. Mothers hugged their babies tighter. Fathers held sticks and stood guard. Everyone felt like something worse was coming. Back at the lake, the moon shone down. The water glowed red for just a moment, like blood. Then it became clear again. A baby's cry echoed across the water, louder than before. It filled the forest. Then came silence. The lake was not just waiting anymore. It was hungry, and soon, water would not be enough to feed it. The wind howled through the trees. The storm grew stronger, and the lake listened. When the sun came up the next morning, the storm had stopped. But the village was in ruins. Trees had fallen. Roofs were broken. People stood around, shocked and sad, looking at all the damage. The lake's anger had reached the village, but that wasn't enough. The curse still wanted more. At the edge of the village stood Adaeze. Her tummy was round, her baby would be born soon. She looked toward the forest where the lake was. In her eyes, there was both fear and courage. She knew what she had to do. She picked up a strong stick, wrapped her head with cloth, and walked into the forest. Her steps were slow but firm. People saw her going, but no one followed. Just then, the sound of a baby crying filled the air again. It sounded closer this time. At the lake, everything was still, too still. Adaeze walked forward. The wind blew softly. The trees swayed as if they were listening. She stood at the edge of the water and spoke from her heart. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. She just offered her truth. She wanted the pain to end. She wanted the children of the village to live. Then the water moved. Slowly, the pale face of a woman rose from beneath. It was Amara, the one whose sorrow had started it all. Her eyes were full of pain. Her mouth looked like it was crying. Though no sound came, the air turned cold again. Amara had been hurt, laughed at, left alone. And in her sadness, she cursed the village. That's why so many bad things had happened. That's why the children suffered. Adaeze dropped to her knees and cried. She told the spirit it was okay to take her if that would stop the pain. Suddenly, the water began to spin. The wind blew strong. The trees shook. It felt like the whole forest might fall. Just then, Obinna, the brave man, ran into the clearing. He tried to stop Adaeze, but she wouldn't go. She stayed. Then, something changed. The wind softened. The spinning water calmed down. Amara's voice soft, like the wind spoke again. She said Adaeze's heart was honest. Her sorrow was real. Because of that, the curse would end. But she also warned, sorrow always leaves a mark. The lake began to glow. The water became calm. Amara's face faded slowly. She looked peaceful, like she could finally rest. The wind stopped. The forest was quiet. Adaeze fell to the ground, tired but safe. Many months passed. In the village, Adaeze now held a healthy baby in her arms. Everyone gathered. They sang. They danced. Children played again. The darkness that once covered the village was gone. But even as the people smiled and celebrated, the lake still sat in the forest. Quiet, still, watching. It was no longer cursed, but it was not forgotten. Because when something is born from sadness, even when it ends, a small piece always stays. And if you listened closely, you could still hear something moving under the water. Soft, slow, waiting. And sometimes, just sometimes, you might hear the cry of a baby far away. Then nothing, only silence. And the lake